This episode of Super Pulp Science is brought to you by Blood Letters by GMB Kamichuk and Ariel Gordon. Blood Letters is an artifact from the future, a jumbled archive of robots, soldiers, dot matrix printouts, ID cards, propaganda posters, photos, maps, and letters. The human detritus offering hints that something has gone horribly wrong. Available where all books are sold.
Attention, citizens! It's time for Super Pulp Science!
This is Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre gets made. My name is Justin Curry, also known the world over as Chasing Artwork. And I'm here with producer extraordinaire, Dan Vadeboncoeur. I think I got that right.
Excellent job. Yeah, very good. You got it all.
We are by ourselves for the first little bit of this podcast because Gregory is running late and we have things to do. So we got to get the show on the road.
We gave him 15 minutes. I think that's enough time. We can get started and then he'll burst in here like a whirlwind and take over, of course. But how you doing, man? It's been a while since I've seen you.
It has been, yeah. A couple weeks on the road and then just a couple weeks of, we got quite a few episodes in the can. So we felt like we were ahead. But then we went traveling and other things happened and now we're like back to catching up again.
Yeah, that's okay.
But yeah, so I think like one of the main things we wanted to talk about on the podcast today was the Calgary post-mortem. But I think we're going to wait for Gregory on that one because he was there as well, part of that adventure. But after that was the Saskatoon Comic-Con. And so I can kind of go over the post-mortem of that because I did that show all by myself. Everybody else has kind of bailed on that show.
Okay. No shade, but or is there a reason for that? Is there a reason like people are just frustrated with?
No. Well, I think Saskatoon is a pretty small town, and so when a lot of these smaller shows, like Regina and Saskatoon, and there's Lethbridge, and there's all these small towns that had conventions that were kind of really worth doing back in like the heyday of Comic-Cons, like 2014, 15, 16, 17, like when just everybody was having conventions, everybody was finding success at conventions. Everybody tried these smaller shows out. Like if you're from, Toronto or Calgary, like a flight to Saskatoon, it's an expensive flight. It has to be worth it. And everybody found that was the case for the first couple of years. And then just, for a number of reasons, these smaller conventions like dwindle in size and scope. And people just kind of started, writing those off as maybe not this year, maybe every other year, or I'm not doing that one anymore. I'm going to stick to the big ones kind of thing. So a combination of all those things has kind of led to the amount of friends that I have coming to the Saskatoon show with me to be a much smaller pool than it used to be.
You're lonely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and like it was always the other reason the Saskatoon convention, since like its inception, was always piggybacking on either the Edmonton Comic-Con or the Calgary Comic-Con. So a much bigger show would happen the week before, the week after. And they did that so that bigger vendors and other artists could kind of do the two shows back to back.
I would even suggest smaller artists could do that. You could do all three and really like have a good income there, right?
Calgary's in like April and Edmonton's in like September.
So, okay.
But,
I see what you're saying.
So the show has gone like different times a year, but they always piggybacked on the back.
One of those two shows.
Yes,
you're saying.
One of those two shows.
I got you.
And it was the same thing when the Regina Comic-Con was a thing. They were always right after Calgary.
Yep.
And then when they switched, they were by Edmonton. So it was the same kind of idea. They're close to a big show. So this year, the last 3 years now, I've become a sponsor of the Saskatoon Comic-Con.
Yeah.
When the show originally started, I think it started by the people who started Calgary. The people who ran Calgary and started Saskatoon. And then Fan Expo, who is the big convention company that owns a lot of big shows in the US and Canada now. They took it over for a year or two and then got right out of there. And then actually the people who own the convention center in Saskatoon took it over. So it's been it's changed like ownership over a couple times. And when the convention people took over, I brought up the idea of, because they hand all the artists and vendors shoelaces to put the lanyards on that says they're an artist or a vendor. So they weren't like anything with a logo. They weren't printed lanyards. It was just those shoelace lanyards that you get at shows. And I had done a little bit of lanyard printing at this point. So I brought up the idea, and this was the first time I'd ever approached anybody about this. Like, if I design and print the lanyards for next year, something that's fun and colorful and people won't throw out after, and we'll put your logo on it, we'll put my logo on it, but like the main focus will be about the artwork. If I do that, will you give me a big space in exchange? I'll handle the design, the printing, I'll ship it to you. You guys just have to put them on the badges when they get there. And they said, yeah, let's try that out. And that was 3 years ago, and it's worked out really well every year, and it's become like a bit of a thing of people like collecting the designs. And I feel like I'm getting like a great deal out of this, because printing lanyards in bulk equals out to like a little bit less than I'd be paying for the spot itself. Okay. But then on top of that, I get a huge advertisement for myself, and then everybody like is seeing my artwork at every single booth because it's around the people's neck. And then last year I skipped the Saskatoon Comic-Con. I had a kid and I didn't want to be leaving home too often. Yeah. So I did my very first show was Calgary, away from the family, and I didn't want to be away for 2 weekends in a row. And so I took a year off, but I still did lanyards for them. And so this year they were like, well, you missed last year, but you still did that favor for us. So instead of 2 tables by the front, how about we give you 6 tables by the front? And so instead of just a big booth, I had an obnoxiously big booth.
Like now we're talking.
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out like how I'm going to fill up all this space, because they don't have 6-foot tables. They have 8-foot tables. Oh, wow. So I have 16 feet by 16 feet. I have a 16 feet by 16 feet monstrosity booth that now I have to fill up. And so the solution for that was the pallet that went to Calgary is now making a stop in Saskatoon before it goes to my next show. And so I was able to bring enough canvases and enough stands and everything to still didn't quite fill up the booth completely. But I probably built the biggest booth I've ever built. And it was a good show. It is a smaller show. I still don't know if I'm gonna like recommend it to like, friends from Toronto or out of town, like Vancouver and stuff, to fly in for it. But especially, Calgary, it's only like a couple hour drive.
It's worth the drive.
Absolutely, yeah. People from Winnipeg, I think we should be seeing more people from Winnipeg there. People from Calgary and Edmonton, we should see them there as well. It was a good little show.
Interesting. Well, sounds good. Any interesting guests or other things happening there?
They had their main guest was supposed to be, I don't know the actor's name, but from Game of Thrones, the betrayer, his name becomes Reek when he gets tortured into oblivion.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That guy. Is he in Misfits too? No, Reek is you're talking about Theon Greyjoy.
Yes.
Yes, Theon Greyjoy becomes Reek, yes. The guy who tortured him is a really good actor. Anyway.
Yes, the guy, he was from Misfits.
Yes.
Playing a very different role than he played in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But he was supposed to be the big guest, and then he dropped out a week before, which, happens at every single convention. People have to drop out, scheduling, blah, blah, blah. I get it. And then they got I don't know how it happened, but just on the tails of that, they were able to get the main actor from Shazam, the guy like Chuck.
Oh, yeah. Still can't remember his name, but I know what you're talking about.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know his
name.
Chuck. The guy from Chuck. So I guess that was the big headliner. And I could kind of see the stage was on the convention floor, which was kind of neat. So I could kind of like peek around and see when people...
Zachary Levi.
That's right, Zachary
Levi. Takes me a minute.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen either Shazam movie in its entirety, but I watched Chuck and I enjoyed Chuck.
See it? Yeah, look, that's just That's just grain in the image. That's, it's a mistake. It's like when people see Jesus in a pancake or something. No.
The other cool thing at this convention was they had enough room, which, I mean, not a great sign, but they had enough room that they had benches in the main aisle. So if you were on the main traffic aisle of the Saskatoon convention, you had too many things to carry, you could sit on these amazing little park benches they had placed everywhere. They laid out carpet, which is not usually a thing at these smaller shows as well. You can tell the people who run it, because they own the convention center, and because they're not a big faceless corporation, they're really putting their all into it. They care. They kept coming around asking me if I needed anything, or I felt like if I had issues, they'd help me out. Actually, I did. I needed an extension cord for my power, and they immediately dropped one off. So it's one of those nice little shows where if you do have something going on, the people running it are there to help, not there to take your booth money and leave you to the wolves, kind of thing. Yeah. So, so I think, not enough good things to say about that show. If you're from Edmonton, Winnipeg, Calgary, surrounding area, give Saskatoon another shot.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that people are kind of dismissing it. Maybe it is because the flights, I mean, it's sure there's easier to get a flight to, from Toronto to Vancouver, super Absolutely. Easy, right?
Yeah.
But to stop in Saskatoon, somehow that's more expensive.
I get all the reasons. And I think too, because they've transitioned so many different companies and so many different ownerships, there's probably been some rocky years and people kind of wrote it off. But now it's kind of, they've rebranded as Pop Con YXE, which is their airport.
Okay.
So I think, new conventions starting up, hoping people give it another shot. And
cool.
I mean, more artists, more vendors means more other people will check it out.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
So it was good.
Good.
Yeah. What are you going to talk about next?
I don't know. Yeah. We're done. We can't fill anymore. We did 11 minutes without Greg, and now we're no, I'm just joking. He said he was 15 minutes away, and now he's got the 3 dots again, so I don't even know what he's doing now. So he's probably on the bus or something.
I have lots to say about Calgary, but I'm trying
Let's wait. What else did you do? Did you go anywhere else before Saskatoon?
It was Calgary, and then I was home for a couple of days, and it was immediately Saskatoon. Yeah. This is usually the week that the Calgary convention happens, and then we stay in Calgary with our good friend Tom and play video games and go see movies, and then go to Saskatoon and then go home. So the last couple of years, it's also been a bit of a workcation in between leading up to the show, which I kind of, Lyndon and Steven and Zach and Gregory, we're all at a B&B together, and we're all workaholics. So we're just kind of feeding, each other's workaholism. So it's always a fun week. But now that, we're all new dads we're all new dads. That trip doesn't make as much sense anymore.
Okay. So, not till the kids get older.
Not till the kids get older. Maybe can come along and help. But
that'd be fun. Family road trip, actually. I've done that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what's next for you after this?
So after this I do Otafest in Calgary, which is the anime show. So I was there 2 weeks ago for the main convention, and I'm going 3 weeks later for the anime show. And those two crowds do not overlap in any way, shape, or form. Huh. Big enough city and different enough interests that people who do the Comic-Con aren't interested in the anime show, and vice versa. So I was always scared that I was just cannibalizing sales doing both, but it's never been the case. It's a great show.
Cool.
But the anime shows are harder and harder to get into. So I feel lucky that I'm actually getting into this one. So many people that I know from Calgary couldn't get tables to the show this year.
Really?
Just too much demand, too many new artists, too many artists trying to get booths. And it's a combination of jury and lottery. So I think they give half the tables away are just random, and then the other half they kind of They told me one time they get together, the whole crew gets together, and they have a big pizza night, and they go through the applications and look at portfolios, and kind of it's a big group decision. It sounds like a fun night that they just kind of go through and decide as a group. So it's not just one person being I like this person, I don't like that person.
Okay.
Person, I don't like that. So it's always a good show, and I'm glad I'm doing it. It's kind of tough when this is your full-time job and you can't fully rely on having tables at shows year after year after year, right? Like,
Right.
you want to be professional and you want to have set appearances and set locations, but the shows still kind of treat most artists as it's not as professional. It's more of a like new up and coming, to the industry. Maybe you'll get in, maybe you won't. We got to give everybody a chance. But like those of us who are like more established and this is what we do for a living, it feels like there should be a different section for us or a different way to
Some of these ones, they do have like a grandfather clause.
They
right?
do.
Like you do it like for San Diego, you have that, right?
Yeah.
You have that. But
then the other half of that is if you grandfather in and it's a good show, then nobody ever leaves. And so you don't get any kind of turnover, any kind of new booths. And we've seen that at shows before where it just looks like the exact same convention year after year after year. And, is that good either?
So is that what they're trying to do with the half of them being randomly selected and the other half being juried?
I think it's they're just overwhelmed by the amount of applications, and that's just the easiest thing to do for them, right? Like, do they go all one way or all the other? And then you hear about, there's certain shows that the people who run the artist alley, it's really like they're letting in their friends and letting in the kind of art that they like and not letting in, well, I'm not a fan of that, so I don't want this artist here. I don't want that. Like, and we've heard stories about that as well. They say it's a lottery, but the same crew of artists get in year after year after year, and people go 5-6 years without being able to get a table. It's, rumors start to spread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little uncertainty doesn't help, right?
Right.
Huh.
Yeah. And on a completely different topic, after Otafest, I go to Anime North, which is the big show in Toronto. It's the big anime show in Toronto.
Okay. So North because of Canada?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's Canada's biggest.
Toronto's not North.
Canada's biggest anime convention.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is always it's a really good convention, but it is an ugly convention center. It is a big empty parking lot hangar by the airport with nothing around. But man, do they fill that thing up with people and booths, and I have my palettes going, so I'm quite excited. So.
Do you find certain things do better at the anime shows as far as your pieces go? Like the what's it called, the Gundams and stuff like that?
There's a lot. Yeah, I'm bringing out a bunch of my older Gundams that I haven't had in a while. I'm bringing those out for the anime shows, and then I won't have my new Lord of the Rings piece front and center like I did in Calgary. I'll have something else.
Sure.
Yeah. So you try to kind of read the crowd, and so for example, like I find Calgary's a little more into the nostalgia. So my older movie and video game type stuff does a lot better than my robot stuff. And for Otafest, all the Gundams will be front and center, and Lord of the Rings and The Thing will be at the back of the portfolio. But I mean, you always kind of get surprised. You can never really tell.
It depends on who the guest is as well, right? Because you've told me, well, not for anime, obviously, but you've told me in the past that when Lord of the Rings guests are at the convention, your Lord of the Rings stuff does a lot better, right?
Yeah. I mean, people, I think it's just kind of front of mind. And sometimes it's also like they want them to get it signed. So that's always kind of neat when they buy your piece for the person to sign it, and kind of neat that, Elijah Wood has seen my artwork over and over and over again. That's kind of neat.
One of these days, he might come on over to the booth.
I don't think they could. I think that's probably dangerous for like Elijah Wood to try to walk the floor like a normal person. And that's why, in like San Diego, like Mark Hamel had to walk around in like a pink stormtrooper outfit because he can't do it like
mobbed.
Yes.
Finally.
Hello.
We were running out of things to talk about, man.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about Calgary, but I can't talk about Calgary.
Yeah.
It's so hurtful. It's so hurtful.
What's hurtful?
But
take a breath, take your jacket off, relax.
Thank God.
Yeah, it's no rush. We can cut the stuff out.
Must be working on the power again.
Geniuses have done a bang-up job so far.
Sorry I'm late to the podcast. I've heard from producer extraordinaire Dan Vadeboncoeur and known the world over as Chasing Art.
We already did that part.
We did that part, yes.
I know, but I've heard from both of them that they have this well in hand and that they've been waiting for me to arrive. I am late because I was at a school visit, and we were having a sure fun time, and so I ran a little long.
That's okay. That's all good. Kids are fun.
The kids are fun. They're, in fact, our future, Dad.
Did
you know that?
Yes, I did. I do know that.
Did you know that? You've been saving up to talk about Calgary. Which means you told all about Saskatoon. I missed it. So you're going to
have to wait. Yeah.
I'm going to listen. So I won't have any clever segues or any properly framed metaphors. You must have done all that heavy lifting before I got here.
Sure.
Well, I just kind of said, I want to talk about Calgary, but I can't talk about Calgary yet because somebody is running late.
I'm that somebody, dear listener.
That was a segue.
And we're going to talk about Calgary Expo. Wednesday morning, I was leading the vanguard. I got on the plane before everyone else. And I guess in a way, what we should probably do is insert the part where we got trapped in the elevator.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That should be the mid part,
okay.
The mid of this episode. Dear listener, if you're getting this message, we are trapped in the elevator as we load Athos, Porthos, and Aramis.
Not just an elevator. This is a freight elevator.
Horse elevator.
This is a freight elevator in a 100-year-old building, and this elevator is about that same age.
Yes. Picture the elevator from The Secret of Nim that they go down into the rose bush in, except it has no roof, and we can see the open mechanisms, and it only has 3 of 4 walls, and the walls are built of old chewed plywood and like pig iron.
Yeah,
and
it's a weathered wooden box that looks terrifying.
And the building manager told us it was recently converted in its lifetime, not for us, but to AC, that it used to just be a pulley elevator that they converted to have power. And somebody pushed a button at the ground floor while we were pushing a button inside the elevator, and we think that has caused the kerfuffle.
So we think it blew a fuse, but the fuses are so old and ancient that the building maintenance guy who knows about this is on the case. He's not allowed to touch any of that machinery because it is so old and specialized. They need a special elevator scientist to come and to get us moving again.
Now, I believe he said Otis, and I think that's the company, but I'd rather imagine an old, grizzled, 85-year-old Otis, who is the only man who knows about these old elevators. And he's on his way.
Why would you prefer that?
Oh, that's what I want.
That'd be great.
It's like getting an old pressman.
I trust Otis.
Yeah, Otis, old Otis.
He knows.
Right? Gear. He's good with gears.
But if that was the movie, then as he's fixing it, he'd be electrocuted. And no, nobody in the world can fix the elevator.
That's true. But we have noticed, dear listener, that we're up near the 7th floor, which is the top of the building, and there's an open ceiling above us, and there's just enough room that if we climb up on the top, we could stand on the crossbar and punch through the gyprock wall if necessary.
We're in the part of the movie where we're eyeing up escape routes, but we haven't gotten desperate enough to try anything yet.
That's right.
Yeah, who's got a granola bar in their pocket that they're going to lie about, and then we'll turn on them later?
Nobody. I don't have one.
Crinkle, crinkle.
Yeah, and there's no water. It's hot. But you know, people always in elevator movies are always like, oh no, I can't breathe. The cool thing about having no roof and no wall is that's not a fear, right?
I wish there was more ceiling.
It's totally true. Yeah, and we're not stuck on the one, I think it's 5, where all the great graffiti is. All those names of all those people have signed it, going back to 1977.
What's maddening about it, though, is we're literally 1 foot away from being able to open the door.
Yeah, what we've learned about this elevator, dear listener, is there's a circuit that's complete by the elevator's position. And since we're not in that position, the door cannot open.
We can see the door, but we can't. We can open it a smidgen.
Yeah. You know what this is, the elevator? This is like the elevator in The Fly, where Brendel Fly, the little, his lab area, if you're trying to picture the elevator, picture that elevator, but no ceiling and no one wall missing.
You know, in retrospect, what we should have done is when they started to call it, we should just let them call it.
In retrospect, what we should have done is not taken the elevator.
Not all 4 of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we
So
let
when
them
in doubt,
call-
split the party.
Well, I would like to point out that I was ready to go up without the elevator.
That's true. You
Thank
were.
you for-
Yeah.
A lot of mistakes were made to get us to this point.
Yeah. In the alternate
Mistakes
timelines,
were made.
a bunch of us followed Justin.
Yes.
In the alternate timeline, a bunch of us listened to Lyndon. In the alternate timeline,
We let the elevator come back
come
down.
all the way down, and when the guy with the bike opened it, he would see us grimacing at him. In a different alternate timeline, we made it just to the top as he pulled it down, and one of our foot got caught and severed. So it's, there's a lot of different ways it could have gone.
The silver lining that I like to take away is now we've had this mishap with the pallet situation. So the rest of our
No, don't say that. That is
the
a
rest
That's
of
an
the
evil
journey
spell.
That's
we've
the jinx.
I'm knocking some wood. We're breaking the evil spell that Justin has cast on the pallet.
we prepaid some karma.
There you go. That's true.
If
That's
you
true.
wanted to bring it back to a topic,
Nah.
the thing that I have been thinking about and joking about with Lyndon a lot lately is Lyndon made some comment the other day when I was doing math, and he's like, "Ugh, math," and I was like, "If you didn't want to do math, you shouldn't have gone into the arts."
That's right.
And I feel like there's that misconception, about art as a industry and career and so on, that you're always doing art stuff.
Yeah, movies, the same way that movies misconstrued a manager with an agent, as they should always show an agent as if they are
right.
behaving like a manager. They don't do that.
Which
That's
they're
not what agents do.
not allowed to legally do.
They also misconstrued the artist's life as being like highfalutin fancy parties where rich people just throw money at your
They're always
idea.
out of inspiration.
That's
and
right.
they just need one spark of inspiration.
Yeah,
then
that's
it-
their only
yeah.
problem. But the art life is really as blue collar as it gets. Like, we're all wearing work gloves. We're in a splintery loading dock elevator, and our goal is to move as much heavy freight today as possible. Right?
I like you said it a couple times, Jonathan, that becoming a successful writer or artist is you basically just become the manager of a semi-successful artist. You're just doing like all the paperwork that you thought somebody was going to do for you one day when you became big, but no, it's all on you.
Yeah.
All the social media, all the taxes, all the forms.
This is a perfect example of what Jonathan says, and it's a good note to end our chapter on, is that we have become victims of our small success. Mm-hmm. Tune in next chapter for the exciting conclusion of Ups and Downs.
Could this elevator fall?
I doubt it.
Because we gotta be 20 floors up, just dangling over nothing.
Can we stop talking about this, please?
Then the follow-up is, I found everything we packed. Getting trapped in the elevator ended beautifully. We had a nice pallet packing. We were almost killed in the street as it teetered. Remember, it teetered in one moment?
Yes.
850 pounds of stuff teetering on the edge of the lift, and all of us put our hands on it as if somehow we would be strong enough to hold it up. No. Gravity did its indelible task and held it in place, and then it was off. And I went early, grabbed an early flight for two reasons. Number one, so I could collect myself, arrive early without any hullabaloo. I had a very heavy parenting week, and so I didn't want to go from that into then being totally in the mix with the whole crew. And I had booked an early flight that I was going to change last second to be with everyone. And then in the end, I thought, no, that alone time will be important. And this is what I thought would happen. I would plan to be there really early so that if something had happened with the pallet, something had happened with the dock, something had happened with our booths, someone would be there way early. So I went early, checked on all of that, and just as I was arriving to talk to Jimmy, who's in charge of the floor at Fan Expo, the guy in charge of our pallet, who I'm trying to colloquialize PJ, because his name is also Justin, so he's Pallet Justin. So PJ shows up behind me, puts his hand on the back of my shoulder and says, "Pallets are where they need to be, bud." And then he just walks on. And so suddenly it went from, okay, I got to get everything organized, to I have all morning to putter and just take it all apart. And I got to have this delightful what would Justin do moment also, because he told everyone where the pallet knife would be, but I wasn't there or wasn't listening.
So the last step of packing up the pallet is you wrap it in this huge saran wrap, this cellophane wrap, and it's clear blue, so you can kind of see what's in there. And then as we're finishing up wrapping the third giant pallet, they're like 7 feet tall, I said, everybody listen. I am putting the pallet knife in this golf bag so you can access it at the top of the pallet.
Now, absent that information, for whatever reason,
Gregory was making eye contact with me as I said this. So he gets there.
I'd completely blotted out that moment. Somehow, some trauma. It was the byproduct of some traumatic loss of memory. Anyway, I had no idea. So I just looking at these 3 huge cocooned plastic pallets, and I go, where would Justin put the pallet knife? And then I thought, okay. He's going to assume that he has tall people with him. So it's for sure in one of these zippers I can reach from here. And I opened the first zipper I could reach. And sure enough, I reached in blind because it's at the very edge of my reach in blind. And what do my fingers grasp but the handle of the pallet knife? And with a shimmering, victorious flourish.
Excalibur.
Yeah, like Excalibur. I then unsheathed our pallets and started to putter away. And I also thought that I would be so tired in the morning and like stressed out. And instead it was like the most chill flight, no problem with security, everything on time. My bags, no delay, first off the belt, arrived. PJ's got the pallets where they got to be. And
I don't think that's catching on, by the way.
It's going to catch on if I just keep up. 14 times I need to do it at least. And then I just started slowly taking these bricks apart and realizing, dear God, I have way too much stuff.
Because this is a pallet with 8 shows worth of, I think in my case, it's 10 shows worth. In your case, it's like 6 or 7, yeah, worth of inventory. Because last year, the problem with the pallet was you sent everything off. You think you had enough, but by show 4, oh God, I'm out of this, and this. And so we tried to go really overboard this year, trying to predict what we're going to need 4 or 5 shows from now and bring enough.
And, and we've said it before, anyone who is involved in retail is probably like, well, don't you have a inventory tracking system that does all that? That doesn't work in a scenario like this, where taste, time, a movie announcement, a certain kind of cosplay changes what it is that somebody does. Like, it's such a dynamic environment.
The convention itself, like this fan expo is like more of a traditional Comic-Con, and then next is TCAF, which
totally
nobody cares about anything that people cared about at Calgary. They just want your books.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the weirder, the better.
The weirder,
right?
the better.
So it's like you can't just like track the inventory, divide it by 7 and stack up the pallets. It's not like that. It's a lot more like a fun game than it is you build a fort and you put all your stuff in it.
Hope
people come over for the sleepover and take some of it. That's sort of what you're doing. So Calgary Expo is one of the largest shows in Canada.
Second largest. I think Toronto Fan Expo has it beat by a little bit.
Yeah, definitely by a bunch. But that means the show floor is huge and it's ever changing. One of the dynamic elements of the Calgary Expo is that we've been doing it for years, but I don't know if we've had the same floor plan once in the last 8 years.
In 2017, it grew to the point where they split the Artist Alley into a different building. Don't quote me on that, but around 2017, they put it into another building.
We already established that trauma affects memory. So.
Yeah. So for like 2, 3, 4, 5, like prior to the event and then after the event, the show was in 2 distinctly different buildings. And the first couple of years really sucked because people didn't know about the second building. They had to like move the celebrities over there to get people to go to the second building. That first year where they swapped over, I asked volunteers like, hey, how do I get to the other building? And they didn't know there was another, like it was really bad when it started out. And then eventually people figured out, and people then quite enjoyed that there was this, the separation of artists and vendors, and people liked going to their car in between the buildings and dropping off their purchases and then kind of starting fresh at the new building. And then the convention center built a new wing.
Yeah, it was like church and state were separate. You could leave the state of Funko Pops and you could go to the Church of Art, Alley.
Yeah.
And, it was a good, and yeah, people like dropping stuff off in their cars or like just leaving, just being outside for a little while.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
There was an excuse to go outside constantly.
So this year, though, all different. There's the new build means we're all together in the same floor plan. And just when you thought you had it all together, if you listened to last Calgary Expos, you may have heard us say, we think they've got it figured out with a new floor plan. Nope. No sooner had they established that than they had to switch it all around. And the scuttlebutt is related to actually butts. The guests, like the featured media guests, many of them on their riders demand a private bathroom that locks. And so where the show floor was, they had to shift them so they were closer to a access way that gave them private bathrooms. So that was, I'm told, the reason they switched it.
I didn't hear that part. I heard that last year.
You've heard it here first.
Because the celebrities were in the same place.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. That's always where the celebrities are.
But they were on the other side of Artist Alley last time.
Well, yeah. So they maybe like moved them differently in that hall, but they were in the same room they were in last year. But what happened? So last year, the Artist Alley was right when you came in the door. And because Artist Alley is a bit of a draw and because it's so interesting, when the crowds came in, they didn't keep going. They stopped and it became like a bit of like the crowd stayed at the entrance. And so it took, people weren't leaving. They were creating bottlenecks and stops at the very, very beginning. And so traffic took a while before it got out of that, and it was always too crowded when people got in.
Can you imagine that being your job? Hats off to all the people who have to figure this stuff out when 50,000 people have to be squeezed through a cheese grater.
Yeah.
Right.
And how that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So this year they moved the artists to it's kind of like divided into 3 halls. There's like the new hall, the really, really old hall, and the not so old hall. And
you could tell what you were in depending on how dim the lighting was.
The lighting, yeah. The lighting was really dim in the middle hall. And they put the artists in the back with the celebrities. So when the doors opened, people saw like it was groups and the people who do like the cosplays and people who are like there for advertising, the army and LARPing.
Is that coming around at those guys who make an appearance at the conventions there?
Army recruiter.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there's always a recruiter.
So it's kind of like the groups and then vendors, and so it's a little more.
Do you like playing video games where you shoot people at a distance?
Schools
Maybe you should
as well.
join our drone program.
Right beside
Do it for real.
You want to design video game booth and stuff like that. So interesting stuff, but a little easier for people to kind of like walk through. And then it's vendors, and at the very end are the celebrities and the Artist Alley.
My wife and son were killed out on Bethlehem Pike 5 years ago, but that's okay, because whoever did it is sorry. You can tell by the heartfelt apology on the back of a car wash coupon.
So I think overall this was a better decision. I think it helped everybody. I didn't like it in the mornings, though. We did not get a rush. We didn't see that crowd. It took like 15, 20 minutes before the trickle started to come in.
I see.
Because we were at the very, very back.
You do get a moment of, uh-oh, right? But no, once you realize that was true, then all it did was it meant that a lot of I would like to say, I never got any kudos for this on the days that it was happening, but I was always ready to go promptly when everyone arrived at my booth, which is not typical when we would go at the end of the day. But it was as a result of knowing that the crowd was not going to surge at the beginning. And so I could do all that fiddling in the morning a little bit while people were there. I was Johnny on the spot, as they were. And I don't want to hear anything different.
Do you want to slap on the back because you didn't hold the group up?
That's right.
Every
for
evening?
once.
Like he usually does?
Normally, yeah. I'm usually the one that they're like, come on, Kamicha. It's time to go. Right? Yes, it's true. This time I felt so good as not being the one. It was Zach. I want to name him. It was Zach Schuster that held us back this time.
I think like that end of the day, like some days you have a group at your booth that's in no hurry to leave. The convention is closed down, but they're kind of looking through and they're taking their time. And it's kind of great making another sale or two after the show has closed. You feel really accomplished. But then some days the last hour has been dead and all you want to do is go. And so you're just waiting for that announcement the show is closed so you can grab your backpack and go have ramen noodles.
Yeah, and then dumb Gregory is fiddling with the end of his booth setup. Yeah.
At the end of the day?
At the end of the day, yeah. That's when I feel the surge of like, right?
Do it in the morning, man.
No.
You're like, it's fresh in my mind. I want to do that.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, it's fresh in your mind.
Oh, there was this great moment on Saturday morning. I now have these lights at the top of my booth. So they're like 12 feet up in the air attached to the top of my booth. And they shine these great little spotlights on my banner. So my booth is all lit up. But the kind of kink in this armor is the plug-in for these lights can be pulled out pretty easily. And it's at the very, very top, like where it's attached to the top of my stands. And so I was fiddling around with my booth Saturday morning and I accidentally tugged on the cord. And I guess it's kind of a good thing as well, like that it just unplugged instead of tearing things down. But I unplugged it. And now I have to bring my stands down, which is the worst thing in the world because it takes forever to get them up. And I don't want to have to bring them all the way back down to the ground and then bring them up again. But I have a tall friend named Gregory.
And that shorter friend brought a tall stool for him to sit on.
You're tall and then you have a tall stool. So I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
And so
no danger at all.
I ran over to Gregory. I'm like, can I grab you and your tall chair? And I need your help for like 2 seconds. And so we were able to lower, instead of lowering it down, 10 feet, we just lowered it down, 1.5 feet, and
less.
You were able to plug it in.
I'm just envisioning like the scene in Back to the Future when Doc is up at the top of the clock tower.
Exactly that.
That's
got to get those together.
Yeah.
That is what you should picture it. It's exactly that. It's the same equivalent voltage. And
1.21 gigawatts.
That's right. It's very dangerous. And,
So,
I saved the day.
My booth
Sounded
looked
like you were,
amazing.
great.
I was super excited, super thankful. So I'm like, Gregory, I'll carry the chair back. Don't you worry. And anybody who's ever seen Gregory's booth knows that everything is just a little precarious over at his booth.
Okay, hold on. Outwardly, it's beautiful.
Outwardly, it's beautiful.
From
But
the
if you
background,
see behind.
what it is you're trying to build a display of the various parts that you have brought with you. And it's all about levels. Levels, Jerry. The levels. And so I had a beautiful, pristine, Ron level display. And then in comes Justin, like a wrecking ball.
Trying to put the chair back carefully.
Now the chair is a tall, big, wide, square thing, and he's trying to thread the needle to swing it through. And instead, what he does, he just sweeps it through the front of the booth.
No
It
sweeping.
explodes. He knocks the thing down. He just
man.
is absolutely destroys the front of my booth. Just as that busy surge we were talking about arrives into the show.
It was like a 9-foot wing that you had like established on the one corner, and I completely dismantled it in just the barest butterfly whisper of a touch.
I don't know if I would call it. However, it was spectacular because the look on Justin's face of pure like penitence, like only someone who builds a booth knows what it means. And I saw that in his face. It was all the apology I needed, was seeing he understood the ramifications.
I know exactly how I would have felt if you had done that to my booth, and so I know how deep that cuts.
It was absolutely amazing. Yeah. What's funny is after you left, the people next to me, like on the inline, right there on that side, one of them leans out and is like, "Do you know that guy?" Like they wondered if you had done that on purpose, or like from them it looked like such
an attendant just coming over and
like a
grabbing it,
spiteful act. They were like, "Who is that guy?" Just came here, messed stuff up, and then ran off. He just left the booth and left it the way it was. It was so funny. Anyway, I told him I didn't know you.
Yeah.
And if they saw you again, please alert security. I also found out at Calgary, which has nothing to do with making comics, except that the B&B we stayed at had a little jagged shard of metal on the outside of the door frame, which scooped the top of my knuckle out on day one. I had been wearing work gloves the entire time setting up the booth. Now it's just soft-fingered Gregory on the way to the show in the morning. All I have to do is pick up a coffee. No, scoops out this just like a core sample in an ice flow. And it looked small at first, and it was the aperture was small, but the depth was quite severe, which I didn't know right away until it just started gushing claret all over. And Steven, he was so sweet. He's like, "Oh, you're bleeding." Like that long E was like perhaps we should turn back, right? I was like, no, we'll get a Band-Aid or we'll get something at the coffee stop we go to. But by that time, I literally had to wash my hands of the blood before I could go in there.
And this was like the Thursday morning?
Yeah.
Kind of? It was,
Show hasn't started
yet.
Show hasn't started. So they get me a little Band-Aid and they put it, and I'm like, it's not very big. And it's like, I just put the pressure on. It's going to be fine. Everything's great. Get to the show. I've bled completely through the bandage to the point where it's dripping onto the floor. So I go in search of a first aid kit. So I just go to the, this is, by the way, normal. People get nicks and scratches all the time at setup, and the dock master or any of the people with the high-vis vests are usually people you can go to and say, hey, I have a minor injury. Point me at the first aid kit. And to their credit, every person I asked brought me to where the first aid kit was supposed to be. Tom was with me, and we went through 6 different people who were like, yep, we've got a first aid kit. Nope, it's not here. Over and over and over again. And it's not a serious injury. I would like to say it's deep, but it's not like, in my mind, that severe. So I'm just like, it doesn't hurt that much. And it's just like, now it's just an inconvenience because
I'm okay.
Everything
passes out from the blood loss.
Until at last, the nobody who works for the convention center can find them, and they're on radios trying to do it. And so I go over to the hamburger stand and I go, you don't by chance happen to have a first aid kit? And they're like, yep. And they immediately produced a first aid kit.
Is that why we have a first aid kit in the studio now?
That's right. Yes.
Oh, I noticed that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
You mean you bought one for the studio?
Jonathan last year cut himself badly at setup and needed a first aid kit, so he brought one to the show. But it was back at the B&B, and I was at the show, so I didn't have even the one we had brought with us. Yes, and so I bled for a while until the hamburger people saved me, and then not 5 minutes after that, an announcement goes over about where the first aid stations are.
Just as a reminder.
There are first aid stations at the so-and-so. It was so funny. Weird. Eventually, I had to go to the first aid station because it still didn't stop bleeding. I tried to bind it up myself, and I thought I'd have to glue it. I thought it would be like, I didn't think I needed a stitch, but I thought you might have to glue it shut. And the first aid guy's like, just takes one look at it, and he goes, oh, that's a terrible place for getting cut. You don't have to use your hand today, do you? And I was like, in fact, I do.
It feels like something bit me.
Does anybody have anything sharp on them? They might have cut her.
No.
You mind if we search your pockets?
Yes, I do mind. You mind if we search yours?
My literal blood, sweat, and tears. So first I bled, then Justin smashed my booth down with a chair.
Yep.
Then the show started. And it was one of the best expos I've had in years.
It was really good.
Yeah, It was so fantastic. And shout out to all the people who showed up on the Sunday of Edmonton the year previous and were disappointed that I was out of stuff. Like I would say a few dozen, because it was Edmonton. I hadn't packed properly for Edmonton. I guess right. I hadn't anticipated the demand. And so I was out of a lot of stuff when people finally came back on Sunday. When many of them said, do you do Calgary in the way that you would make small talk to just be like, cover up your disappointment? And I said, yes. Then, well, we'll be there Thursday then, so you don't run out. By gosh. They all showed up. Yeah. All these people from Edmonton the previous year came, and they were the first people who showed up, to the point where it was starting to freak me out. Like I asked,
like one after another, these people come
up after the other, and they're talking to each other. Oh,
Hi.
I was in Edmonton.
You might not remember me, but
yeah,
the last person just. That's hilarious.
What happened was a bunch of them started talking. There was like 8 people all together, and they all started talking about how they were all in Edmonton together. They didn't know each other, and we just had this like wonderful moment where I just thanked them all as a group. Like, number 1, for giving shit. Number 2, for remembering for a whole year.
Yeah.
Right. And then for showing up. Right.
You made an impression, and they remembered.
Yeah. And then when one of them asked for a very specific thing, I said, I'm sorry, I'm sold out.
Yeah.
We'll have to come back next year.
Yeah.
Does that always kind of, it bugs me, and I have no real like it shouldn't bug me, but like when somebody in Calgary will say, like, look at the portfolio, like, oh, the stuff is great, but will you be in Edmonton? It's like, yes, I'll be in Edmonton. Okay, well, I'll see you there then. You know, like the whole like, oh, I'm totally gonna buy your stuff, but not here.
Because they're from Edmonton.
I
so they don't
get
wanna
it.
Get your
I get it.
beautiful
But
artwork
also,
safe.
like it feels like I wasn't quite good enough to close the sale at this current city. So they want to let it simmer for a couple months. Or something.
I think it's just a way for them to get out of the conversation without having to buy something,
That
and they
too,
can
yeah.
say, "Oh, I will look at your stuff, and I'll have another chance to look at this
Yeah.
stuff." So I'm just gonna
Like it could be
put
you
that then.
deeply offended them with something
could
you've said
be,
or
yeah.
done, and they're just trying to get out of it.
Part of the reason Toronto has a March Fan Expo and then an August Fan Expo. And it really bothered me at the March Fan Expo how many conversations ended with, are you going to be here in August? Okay, well, I'll see you then. Like,
Yeah.
most people, it seemed like they were treating that show as kind of a preview for the bigger show in August and just kind of like collecting lists of stuff they wanted to get in the main event.
I mean, they might budget for that show, right? They might be. This is when I spend all my money. So I don't know.
Justin.
Again,
Think of the people.
it bothers me, but it shouldn't bother me. And I understand the reasons. It's just always like,
Now, in the same breath, I will say that Justin and his helper this year spotted a child that really wanted something that they could only afford one of. They slipped the extra one in their bag without them having to pay for it.
Dane did that once a day, and it was great. I borrowed one of Quirkylicious's amazing helpers. The name is Dane, and he was helping me out at the show. And at least once a day, he'd peek his head over because we kind of had two sides of the booth. It was a big booth, and he had his side, I have my side. And would peek over and go, Justin, this kid really wants this print, but he's like blown through his budget. Can I slip it in? Can I just slip that kid like that one print he wants? Yeah, that sounds
like
fine.
not that the kid is asking.
No.
They're noticing that he would get both if he could, but he's having to,
Dane wanted to do like just have a happy surprise.
Where did Dane come from? He's like the saint of Comic-Con. Everyone that met him liked him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was in Saskatoon as well.
Yeah.
We had a great time.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So it was, I love doing that every once in a while. Like somebody will be like, I want it. Like I only have enough budget for like one more thing, and I really want the two things. But okay, I'm going to get this thing. And oftentimes I'll go to the back of the booth and slip both in and not say anything for them to find it
That's
later.
cool. That's good. That's good.
No, I wonder, does any of them who are like deeply honest, like to their core,
People
think
have
you
come
made a
back- yes.
mistake and then come back and be
That
like, oh,
has
I'm so sorry.
happened
Yeah.
where somebody has come back and they're like, you accidentally gave me both. It's like, that wasn't an accident.
Justin. Yeah. So don't piss him off, or he'll do the reverse. He goes in the back and takes out
one.
the thing that you paid for. Yeah, that's right. No, it's the show was good for a couple of reasons. One of them for me is always when people who have picked up something in a series, right, come back because they've read it and they want to discuss it and they want to talk about it like on the line level, or they want to, the part of it that is, and you mentioned this in our group chat about the craft, like a lot of people when they're talking about the show life really focus on the hustle. They focus on like, cost per unit. How did you get it there? Can you make the sale? Can you upsell them? Whatever. Whereas our group chats are like, my God, they really liked my blues, right? We're just so much more interested in talking to people about the parts of it that is actually connecting to them, the person.
No.
And the prose books do bring out a different side of that. Graphic novels, people will point to a moment, an image, an element of it. They'll often want to talk about that. But because prose still has a level of, I wonder if that's what they meant, right? This is what it means to me.
The interpretation.
I wonder if it means that to the author also. Those conversations where people come and a certain passage, a certain portion of the book has made them think something, and they feel comfortable enough from the previous interaction to ask me directly and expect that I will entertain that conversation is, something I don't take lightly, something I really appreciate, something that is, has nothing to do with money at the show and everything to do with just like you're trying to make work, you're working by yourself, you're alone, you're wondering, will anyone care? And then when it reaches across time and space and distance and into their lives and it means something, and then sometimes you're like, oh, it doesn't mean that at all. this was my perspective as a writer, but sometimes the thing that they see is exactly the reason you put it in.
The hallucinations from your brain got into their brain.
And they're the same. Those moments are so...
Reason why you do conventions.
Yeah, so much the reason. That having books in bookstores, while exciting on the abstract level, is nowhere near as exciting as a person who has lived with that story, who wants to talk to you about it, and then is willing to share some element of their life and their story. And then now that was the reason to have done the labor, is like to connect us, you know? So those things happened a lot in Calgary.
Yeah.
And I brought a stack of imagination manifestos. And my branding and my overall booth setup has changed so much over the years since the manifesto days that it's really interesting to see people who spot that cover and then look at me and then look at the booth and then look at the cover and then like, wait, I have that. Is that you? This is you? This is you now?
Yeah.
That's
10
a
years
great
ago,
feeling when
right?
somebody comes up to the booth and is looking through, is like, I think I bought something from you like years and years ago. Did you do a samurai jacket? It's like, yeah, that was me. Oh my God. And like they've kind of fallen in love with your work all over again, but you're so far removed from the artist that you were. Like that's a great feeling when you've kind of captured their imagination twice.
Do you ever have it when where you are now disappoints them? Like the work that they hoped you would, you know, that was the direction they thought you were taking has now become different, you know?
I kind of put that to bed a little bit with in my current portfolio. I brought quite a few older designs out just because the palette didn't have any weight limits issues. So I was able to bring like 20 old designs kind of back out of retirement and bring them to shows. And part of me was a little worried that they'd sell too well and my new stuff would be overshadowed overshadowed by the old. But not so much the new stuff was crushing the old stuff, which made me feel great. Yeah, made me feel justified in the choice.
Old you was put in their place.
Yeah.
Right? You've grown.
I have.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It's interesting.
We could wrap things up right now.
Yeah.
Because we've been going for a while. So.
Oh, yeah. I guess you guys have been going for a long time.
Final thoughts, maybe?
Here's a final thought on Calgary Expo. We missed Lyndon.
Yeah, it's true.
We missed Lyndon. You go on the road with people, you start to hang out with people, and then suddenly they're not there. And it was we know that the reason he was not there was a great reason.
He's waiting until Noble Beast comes out.
That's his reason.
Yeah. Everybody who bought Dire Beast last year wanted Noble Beast.
The reason was the birth of his first child. Yeah. And so we were so delighted that he had a great reason to be there, and hooray and wonderful, and he'll come on and talk about all that. But then we suddenly realized something, Lyndon, that does this mean you can never come to Calgary Expo ever again?
It was an important birthday
because it's now birthday weekend.
Well, it's not always going to line up exactly, or is it always going to line up
for years?
For years, it will line up exactly. So we missed you, Lyndon, and we'll continue to miss you. We'll bring him on to talk about a number of exciting things that are happening with Laundryman and other things on a new episode of Super Pulp Science. I think, however, that it is time for us to go, dear listeners. I wish I could stay longer. I wish I had arrived earlier. But if you are planning to hit the road, remember that the shows are connected in the minds of the people who live nearby also. And so someone who says, I'll catch you next time, sometimes they really do mean it. We'll catch you next time on Super Pulp Science. This is GMB Kamichuk encouraging you to join the fight and make comics.